Could you start out and just tell us a little bit about your background as a rancher in
Well,
Montana?
my name's HowardLyman. I'm a fourth generation farmer, rancher, feedlot operator from Montana. At one time I had thousands of acres of crop, 7,000 head of cattle, 30 employees, 40 tractors. And one time I thought I was a big agribusinessman.
And then also you spent some time in Washington as an agribusiness lobbyist, right?
Yeah, I spent 5 years in Washington, D.C. working on Capitol Hill as a lobbyist for a small farm organization, National Farmers Union. And I found that when I went there, the last thing in the world that they ever wanted was reality. What they really wanted is they wanted to keep their job. Number one goal of the members of Congress is getting reelected. Whatever it takes, that's what they're about.
All right. So now we'll just want to hear a little bit about your own health story. So you had a cancer at one point, I think.
Well,
Could you...
I ended up with a tumor on my spinal cord, and I was paralyzed. I went to the doctor, and he looked at it, and he says, "You have a tumor on your spinal cord." He said, "If it's on the inside of the cord, you have less than one chance in a million you will ever walk again." Well, it brought a lot of reality to me. It made me think about what I loved the most, which was my farm. And when I started farming, we had birds and trees and living soil. I could just imagine putting my fingers in that living soil. And after 20 years of my chemical addiction on that farm, I saw the birds die, the trees die, I saw the soil change. And I was not willing to admit who was the problem until I was paralyzed. And when I was laying in the hospital the night before the operation looking at 1 in a million, I made up my mind I would never walk again, but never again in my life would I ever do something that I did not believe in. And I did not believe putting more chemicals was the way to go. And so I knew that I was going to inform myself of alternate ways of running that farm. So I have an operation. They took out a tumor the size of my thumb. I ended up walking out of the hospital with a 1 in a million operation, but I walked out a very different individual.
Wow. So you also eventually adopted a plant-based diet. When did you do that, and why did you do it, and what kind of benefits did you get from that?
Well, when I started out, I thought the solution, I did some reading, and I thought, what I really need to do is become an organic farmer. If I got rid of the chemicals, maybe the birds would come back, the trees would come back, the soil would change. So I went and saw my banker, and I said to my banker, I need your help. I want to become an organic farmer. And he said, "What in the world does that mean?" And I said, "I want to grow crops with no chemicals, no fertilizer." And he said, "You got to be out of your mind. You think I'm going to lend you money and you're not going to spend it with my other customers, the chemical dealer, the pharmaceutical dealer?" He said, "There's never going to be a day like that." So I sold my farm. I paid my debts. And I thought, one way or another, I'm going to see whether I can be a benefit to the environment instead of a detriment. And the more I learned and the more I read, I thought, maybe, here I am from Montana. I'm thinking about not eating meat. Wow, my God, sacrilegious. By the time I decide to change my diet, I'm well over 300 pounds. My blood pressure is sky high. My cholesterol is over 300. I changed my diet, I lost 100 pounds. My blood pressure went from sky high to normal. My cholesterol from 300 to 135. I'm telling you what, I couldn't wait to tell the rest of the world. So I started traveling around and I started talking to people about my diet, about the environment, about the animals. And I looked at it and said, I finally feel good about what I'm doing. I finally feel like I've achieved the thing I was looking for when I was paralyzed. Finding fact and following it. And so That was the start of my career, as saying to people, you know, go ahead, take a look at the food you eat. Where did it come from? Who produced it? What's it doing to you, the environment, and the animals? That was the question. That's what I did for the next 20 years.